Socioeconomic status and psychology. So let's get some background of socioeconomic status. It is the position of an individual or group on the socioeconomic scale determined by different social and economic factors. Previous research studies found that people with socioeconomic status can have an effect on people's psychology, such as within identity, self esteem, educational achievement, mental health, culture, and behavioral issues. The purpose of this study is to understand the influence of SES has on child development, help to understand the influence it has on mental health, help to understand if SES factors set a preface for an individual's life or individuals can change that. So we decided on the broad topic of socioeconomic status for our research, and along with that, we needed to come up with individual hypotheses regarding socioeconomic status and another variable. We defined and measured socioeconomic status by income level, education, occupation, city they reside in / grew up in, culture, and property. So these are our research hypotheses. Mine is children with high to medium socioeconomic status are positively associated with higher educational achievement. My construct is socioeconomic status, and the influence is educational achievement and goals.
My hypothesis is that people's socioeconomic status may affect their self-esteem and their identity and how they view themselves towards other people, such as rich people versus poor people. The construct for mine is socioeconomic status, and the influence is self-esteem and identity.
My hypothesis is how behavioral issues are influenced based on a child's socioeconomic status. My construct was socioeconomic status, and my influence was behavior.
For my research hypothesis, I wrote cultural stigmas and socioeconomic status negatively impact Black, Indigenous, people of color mental health. And for the construct, it is socioeconomic status. And for the influence, it is cultural stigmas. For our methods of data collection, we felt that it would be best to use a survey as our method of data collection. We had participants scan a QR code via flyer or online announcement to receive the questionnaire. The materials we used were informed consent forms detailing and explaining the purpose of our study, as well as what type of questions will be asked on the questionnaires. The other materials are the surveys. We use a series of diagnostic questions to be able to categorize our data as well as our participants. For example, what is your race / ethnicity? Do you belong to a high or low SES? And many more. The type of questions we used for our surveys included Likert scale questions, yes or no questions, and free response questions. A common factor we had for our survey was distinguishing whether the participants belong to a high SES or a low SES. For our procedure, we preface every survey beforehand with the informed consent form and the highlight and then the highlights of the consent form. We used a combination of in-person surveys and online surveys. We aim for the surveys to take 5 to 15 minutes and 30 minutes for the in-person surveys. Unfortunately, no compensation was not given.
So for our results and findings, I found that we first separated participants into 3 socioeconomic status categories. The overall data displayed a relationship between children who grew up in low socioeconomic status with lower overall scores in their education, such as reading / vocabulary and GPA. We also found that children with low socioeconomic status are less likely to pursue education after high school.
The questionnaire results scores showed that self-esteem is connected to lower, middle, and upper class. Upper class and rich people view themselves differently than lower class people do. An example is that upper class people will be more confident in themselves because they have money to afford nicer things. Meanwhile, a poor person is not confident since they cannot afford as much as a rich person does.
A self-reported questionnaire was given to the parents of the children. The questionnaire asked the families their SES and their child's mental health history. Based on the questionnaire results, I was able to conduct a t-test and determine how common behavioral issues were in each SES category.
On our results and finding, I was testing to see if Black indigenous people of color have a higher rate of mental illness, as well as having a focus on low SES BIPOC individuals. And with data collected, there is a correlation between belonging to a low SES and having a sort of psychological disorder.
So for the conclusion, through our study, we have concluded that children who come from low socioeconomic statuses displayed more behavioral issues. Their education was affected as they showed lower test scores in areas such as reading and vocabulary, and their overall GPAs were lower than a child who came from a higher socioeconomic background. It was apparent that children who came from a higher socioeconomic status displayed higher levels of confidence, self-esteem, and performed better academically.
Our future directions showed that in our future research, more research studies such as surveys and questionnaires can help find more results in the oncoming years, especially if they're placed online. This could find more results for the hypothesis if socioeconomic status and psychology is linked, specifically with educational achievement, self-esteem, identity, behavioral issues, and mental health. Participants should have access to older people and the same amount of participants for each category of socioeconomic status for more reliable data. Some limitations can be that questionnaires and surveys are not always reliable. Since results cannot be 100% accurate, this can happen by participants lying about their choices, and this can mess with the results and make the results somewhat false.
Thanks for watching.